this nation, values that we see every day, and frankly, every minute of the day, are under assault from Donald Trump, from MAGA Republicans, and it does not matter what level they are. We've seen our local governments and city governments infiltrated by MAGA mentality that says somehow a pothole now becomes Democrat or Republican. That somehow teachers cannot be trusted to teach. That somehow the values that I was raised with in Harrison County and that families across this Commonwealth have been raised with of community and justice and fairness are now, according to Republicans, some far left liberal agenda. Let me be clear that it is not. What we stand for as Democrats are the values that have shaped our community and this Commonwealth and this country. What we stand for. And I was so glad to have to make a couple of laps around here to see the picture, the painting of Abraham Lincoln, who, let's be honest, the GOP says is a Republican, but trust me when I say, I know history well enough to know that Lincoln would not associate with any part of what constitutes to be a Republican nowadays. But Abraham Lincoln told us that a house divided against itself cannot stand. And frankly, that was actually a Bible verse before it was a Lincoln quotation. We understand that as Democrats. We understand that to move our Commonwealth and our country forward, we cannot do it in silos. That we must come together and band together to tackle the big issues that matter. We did that here in Kentucky under the leadership of Andy Beshear. It is one of the reasons why our health outcomes have improved across this Commonwealth. It's one of the reasons that there's a record number of jobs created across this Commonwealth, not just in the Golden Triangle, but across this Commonwealth. There's a reason that we are trying so hard to ensure that pre-K for all is a real thing, because we understand that these things aren't Democratic or Republican. They just are the right thing to do. And Democrats, we have to be the voice of what is right. We have to be and have the courage to stand and say what is going on in Washington and going on in Frankfurt right now, it cannot last if we are to be the Commonwealth and the country that we aspire to be. You know, I'm reminded in these moments that so often we hear that we have never been in a moment like this before. And that would be true, but for the fact that you have a history major as a chair, so I can tell you that we have. And it may not look like Donald Trump, but we have been in these moments in our nation's history, in the history of this Commonwealth, where we have been asked, we have been summoned to fight for this country, to fight for our Commonwealth. This is a battle. Don't let anyone tell you that this is, oh, we'll get over it. No, the South didn't get over being defeated. They just became Republicans. I just came up with that, and that's probably going to get me in trouble at some point, but it's also true. They didn't get over it. And we can't just assume that our wishes and wishing for a better tomorrow is going to make it so. We are in a battle for the soul of our nation and for the conscience of our Commonwealth. And so it matters that we show up. It matters that we speak truth to power, even when it feels uncomfortable. I said this the last time I was here, and I will say it again. I am so sick and tired of people who are so afraid to be Democrats that they get into the frozen food section at the grocery store and they open up the bin and then they talk about being a Democrat. We don't have time to fear being Democrats. Democrats are on the right side of history. We're on the right side of this moment. And so we have to speak that truth to power. But it's not just about speaking it. Because our faith, my faith tells me that faith without works is dead. And so as much as we can speak to it, my friends, we have to work towards it. And what that looks like is we have great candidates running. We have to show up for those candidates. We have to knock doors. We have to send text messages and emails and have those very uncomfortable conversations with our friends and our neighbors because the moment dictates that for us. And what we don't want to do is wake up the day after Election Day in November wondering if we just would have done this. Could we have won? We want to be on the side of saying we won because we did everything that we could do and more. And if you look at how Democrats are winning in these elections that we're not supposed to win across the nation, it is because fellow Democrats in these small towns and big cities and states understand this moment. They understand it for what it is. They understand that for my 4 children and your children and grandchildren and generations yet to come, that if we do not get this right, we will lose the soul of this nation. And I refuse to give Donald Trump that glory. I refuse to let Robert Stivers or David Osborne in Frankfurt dictate the end of how this story comes out, because I firmly believe that in this nation, for everything that folks are trying to take from us, we still are a government of, by, and for the people. And when we show up, Democrats win. And when Democrats win this year, Kentucky wins and America wins. I've told this story before, but I'll leave you with this. My grandmother was a maid for 50 years to one family who never let her go through the front door of their home. When she would take my sister and I, because my mom was working, we always wondered why we had to go around back, because everybody else's house, we'd go in through the front. And this was not some long ago time. This was 1988 in San Antonio, Texas. Years later, I became politically active, and my mom told me, just out of the blue, said, you know, you're getting good at this political thing, but your grandma was much better than you. And I'd never thought about my grandmother being politically active. And she said, you know, your grandma has a record. Now, in my mind, you know, that idolized my grandmother, I didn't go to a criminal record. I thought my grandmother was like one of the long-lost members of the Supremes. I was so excited to know that, oh my goodness, my mother was disappointed in me in that moment. She said, no, your grandmother and your grandfather went to jail, not 1, not 2, not 3, but 6 times for trying to register to vote, not even voting, to register to vote. And I think about my grandmother and my grandfather a great deal, because their grandson grew up to move to a state that they never visited, to become the first black chair of a political party in Kentucky's history. And I don't say that for me. I say that for this. Even though my grandparents could have never seen me moving to Kentucky, they couldn't have seen this moment, sharing it with you all here in Washington County this evening, they believed it was possible. And that's what took them to the lines and to, it's not hyperbole, to risk their lives so that maybe they would have the chance to vote, but assuredly their daughter and their son and their grandchildren would have that right to vote. In this moment, we are called not only to think about ourselves, but to think about the future. Think about what we, the people, will leave to the future. My grandmother was not a superhero. She just believed that right was right. She would always tell me, Coleman, right is always right. It may not be easy, but it is always right. So Democrats, we are right. We are right in what we believe. We are right in what we fight for. Our candidates are helping lead the way to a new dawn in this country and in this Commonwealth, where we can finally get rid of this MAGA mentality, where we can finally put the pieces, the broken pieces of our country and our Commonwealth. We can begin to heal these wounds, come together, not as Democrats, Republicans, or independents, but as Kentuckians, to do what is right for ourselves and for our future. But to do that, I say again, we must be bold in this moment. We must give all that we can. These candidates out here are doing something fierce and righteous. They're putting their names on the line in a time where it is dangerous to do so. We will not let them stand alone. Kentucky's Democratic Party, so long as I am chair, will not let that happen. So long as Andy Beshear and Jacqueline Coleman are governor and lieutenant governor, we will not let that happen, and you cannot let that happen either. And let me just say this, when we win this November, and we will, we then set the stage. And this is where we start thinking about the future. We then set the stage to make sure that next year, we elect a Democratic governor and a Democratic lieutenant governor and a Democratic ticket, because this Commonwealth cannot abide by another 4 years of a Republican attorney general who is hell-bent on taking rights away from women and children and families. We cannot take another 4 years of an auditor who would rather audit the governor than what's going on right in her own office. And then, and I'm partial to all of these outcomes, but I really like the third one, we get to elect a Democratic president. And let me tell you something, Washington County, if we do all that we know we can do, I have a feeling that Democratic president may be somebody that we know. Somebody that we voted for before. Somebody who we know can carry the weight of all that is and transform this country, like this Commonwealth, into what it can and should be. I make no bones about who I believe that should be. But before we get there, there's a lot of road. And I could not be more thrilled and honored to travel that road with each and every one of you. God bless you. Thank you so much.
Well, it's appropriate since I forgot this in the beginning, but with Coleman speaking, it reminded me that I wanted to tell everyone why we call this the Senator Georgia Davis Powers rally and dinner. And for those of you who don't know, Senator Georgia Davis Powers was from Springfield, born on Jimtown Road here in Washington County. She was an amazing woman. She was the first black female senator in the Kentucky Senate, and she served for 21 years. And she was the she decided to run for office because she was working for after they moved from Springfield. She had like 9 brothers and sisters, and because their house was demolished by a tornado, and they moved to Jefferson County. And so that's where she got involved in politics a little bit. when she started attending the Presbyterian church there and getting involved into the civil rights movement. And so her boss, she was a clerk for this fella in the legislature, and she asked him to support the Civil Rights Act, and he refused and blew smoke in her face. You can read all this in in her autobiography and in her biographies. There's been many stories written about her and books, and she was an awesome person. And she said, well, maybe I just need to run myself. And she did, and she won. So, and she championed all the causes that are important to us. With this being Women's History Month, and last month, Black History Month, it's only appropriate that we honor Senator Georgia Davis Power's legacy today and what she did for the civil rights movement. She got a lot of bills passed in the legislature, and her causes were for women and children and mental health services and people with disabilities, and she was a champion of those causes and for the poor. So that is why we call this dinner. We do this in her memory and in her honor. So just wanted to let you all know. And since Coleman was speaking of teachers, and our lieutenant governor, a teacher, couldn't be with us today, she sent a letter. But I want to say before that, I want to recognize Sherry Medley Grigsby, a teacher who has served 30 years in the teaching world, and today is her birthday. So happy birthday, Sherry Medley Grigsby. Thank you for your service. So, Fran, if you would like to read the letter from Lieutenant Governor.
The Lieutenant Governor always loves coming down here and loves Washington County, so she did write this. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Springfield. The annual Washington County Democratic Dinner is one of my favorite events, and I'm sorry that I cannot be with you in person. As most everyone knows, I'm a mom of 4. If you don't know, I went from 0 to 4 children almost overnight. I gained 2 bonus sons, Will and Nate, when Chris and I married. I gave birth to Evelyn right after taking office, and officially adopted Emma shortly thereafter. Speaking of Emma, we are on our way at this very moment to the Maxwell Air Force Base in Alabama to see her graduate from officer training camp as a new member of the Air Force Nursing Guard. So she had a very good reason not to be here. I'm a very proud mom, but I'm also proud to be the state's highest elected educator, a rural Kentuckian, and a Democrat in a red state. I believe that all Kentuckians deserve the tools they need to build a better life for themselves and their families. The Bashir Coleman administration has been laser focused on making this a reality over the last 6 years. We don't get distracted by the cable news issue of the day or the manufactured culture wars pushed by the far right. We understand the importance of showing up and focusing on making people's lives better. For me, that means visiting all areas of the state and listening to the people who matter most, people like you. I know you feel the same because you are here tonight. It's our time to work together to make Kentucky the best place to live and work, not just for the wealthy, for everyone. We need you to help get our message out, to talk to your friends and neighbors, to knock on doors for the candidates that will help us reach our goals. Give what you can, when you can, and bring our dream of a better Kentucky to reality. Please know that I'm grateful for each and every one of you and your support. Thank you for what you do to uphold the ideals of the Democratic Party. We need to work harder for our Commonwealth more now than ever before. Now let's get to work. Sincerely, Lieutenant Governor Jacqueline Coleman.
So before our next speaker, we want to auction these two wonderful cakes that Brett Berry made one, and Helena Harden made one. I'm not sure. Jackson, you will hold him. And so the one Brett made, what is it, Brett?
If Brett made it, it's good, I promise.
Bourbon spice with pecan sauce. Is that what that says? I think. Oh my.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, y'all put me behind a dynamic speaker and the lieutenant governor's letter, so I hope I can keep up the pace. All right, on the cake, Miss Brett Berry made it, donated. I guarantee you it's delicious. Who'll give me a $100 bid and go? $100 bid, would you go 100? 100 now, 25. $100 bid now, 25. Would you go 125? $100 bid and now 25, now 50. 125 and now 50. Would you go 50? Would you go 150? 125 and now 50. Would you go 15? I got 50. Now 75. 150 now 75. Would you go 75? 150 now 75. $150 bid now 75. You're out. No, you are. You're in. You're right. 150 now. I was trying to get her bid against herself. 150